So here's a lot of things. Here's your research and development. You watch these guys and they'll teach you how to catch wolves. Wolves are like the same thing as a pack of dogs, and lots of times, so these are Gordy Clausen's dogs, and believe it or not, that little one there runs the whole pack. That little female runs the whole pack. She's the boss. And so, what holds their attention? What makes them curious? They're like humans, okay? We need shelter, they need shelter, right? So we call that our territory, right? We need to have sex to reproduce, they need to have sex to reproduce, right? They need to eat, right? And just like us, they're curious. So this thing with the urine, lots of urine or a little bit of urine, if you gentlemen and you ladies, the same thing, if there's a man that goes by that's got tons of aftershave on, do you want to walk up to him and get a second whiff of it? Absolutely not. The same with you gentlemen with a lady walking through, and you can smell her 30 feet down the mall. You want to walk up to her and get another whiff? You already had more than you want, right? But if a lady goes by you and you just catch a little scent and it's not one that you're used to, right away that gets your attention, right? And so that's the same way with using urine and lure on your wolves, bobcats, whatever. And one thing that I tell a lot of people, they make the mistake of they'll only use wolf urine to try to catch wolves. I catch more wolves on bobcat and fox urine than I do on wolf urine. Okay? Every predator in that wolf's territory knows every other predator. So the wolves know if there's bobcats in that area, they know that. If a new one comes in the area, they want to chase that damn thing out of there. Why? Because they're all predators, they're all looking for the same food, right? So lots of times at your bait sites and stuff like that, mix up your lures. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you betcha. Yeah. Physical characteristics. So generally your wolf weighs between 100 and 120 pounds. Your pups there and that are a year old, by the time from the spring to the fall, they're usually around 85 to 90 pounds, 85 to 90 pounds, somewhere in there. So take a look at the height off of the, roughly a little over 2 feet off the ground for your younger ones. And then the real big ones, they're very, very few are over 32 inches. The length, 60 inches. I've got a wolf hanging in my house there that's 8 feet. Head to tail, yeah.
Females are much smaller.
Yeah, yeah. And that's very few and far between that you get them. I don't know how many people I've had want to buy that wolf off of me, and it's not for sale. If you guys had gone to the rendezvous, I donated a black wolf that I probably would have got $700-800 for. I donated that for the fundraiser for our Trappers Association. But that was a beautiful black wolf. You get very few that are furred up as well as that one was. Did you get a look at it, Tom?
Yeah, I did.
That was a good wolf, eh?
Where was it from?
What's that?
Where was that black one from?
From? I caught that just south of Black Mountain. On the, yeah. So they have very dense underfur, and so we'll talk a little bit more about snaring and making snares and stuff. And so lots of times your lock and that can get hung up in that thick fur sometimes. But with these new snares that we're making, with the springs, kill springs and stuff in them, and the way we were making them, it took a while for us to get to where we're at. And one thing I can say, and I'm very proud to say, is the Alberta Trappers Association and our membership. Any association is only as good as its members. We have produced more humane equipment than any other province or state in North America. So I'm really glad to be part of that. And right now, the wolf snares, so our snare system that we have now are passed right across Canada. It's the only free hanging snare that's allowed right across Canada. And for coyotes and that, and they're getting tested for wolves. They've passed for coyotes, they've passed for the eastern wolf, and it took us a long time to tell those people from Quebec and that the eastern wolf is smaller than the western or timber wolves. We have coyotes that are just as big as, in southern Alberta, that are just as big as the eastern wolf. So right now, we're having snares that are being tested, and they're going to be approved for the snares that we're making now for the timber wolf. So
Who tests
it's
that?
Fur Institute of Canada, and they're getting tested here at Leslieville.
Do they use live wolves and see how it kills them,
Well, yeah.
or they just go on a trap line?
No, they're caught out on the trap line, but there's a criteria of how they're caught and what is done before they're taken and they're tested. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a break or something. So that dense fur can really make it difficult for a snare. So when a wolf gets caught, if you see any swelling in the head, that tells you in the snare, that tells you that wolf didn't die instantly. It took time for it to die.
How long does it take when you catch it lower down to die?
It takes usually a little bit longer, but if you have the power springs on it, they die with less than 5 minutes.
Sometimes they don't go out.
Yeah, yeah, and that we'll talk about that too when you're setting your snares. Sometimes if you're setting them one way or another, or it depends if you've got some of the old triggers versus the newer triggers. Some of the first triggers that came out were Marty Senecker's, and they weren't as good as the newer ones. The newer ones, they fire a lot better, and it makes a difference. We'll talk about that whether you put it at the front of the snare or on the side of the snare. That can make a difference on how quick it fires. Lifespan. So wolves have short, hard lives. You don't see any fat wolves. Disease is one of the biggest killers of them. Starvation can happen. Drowning, you see a lot of the pups and that will drown when they're trying to cross rivers and that, trying to follow the pack. And other wolves, and of course there's the hunting pressure, but in southern Alberta, there are more wolves killed by hunters than there are in northern Alberta. So we're going to talk about coyote versus wolves. Okay, there you see a coyote and you see a wolf laying there. Look at the difference in the size of the heads. Which one has the bigger head? Which one has the bigger brain? Right? So they say wily as a fox, smart as a coyote. I'll tell you, wolves can be real thinkers. Like I was telling you, I've seen where wolves have done some amazing things. And we have a gentleman that belongs to the Lac La Biche local. His name is Rene Schwab. When we were doing the Alberta Trappers Association was doing the wolverine study, we had trail cameras set up and we had alligator clips set on these poles so that when the wolverine tried to climb the pole, hair would get caught so we could get DNA from the wolverine. On one of the sites, the camera, the wolf is coming in, and he stops in this little clearing. He backs up, he picks up a stick. He's got a stick in his mouth, and he walks into the wolverine site swinging his head like this with a stick in his mouth. Why do you think he was doing that? It had got caught in a lynx snare, and the lynx snare was around its neck. It was a 1/16 inch cable, and it didn't have a lock on it, it just had a loop. So it was hanging there loosely, but it was still on that wolf's neck. So that wolf knew enough. It put this stick in its mouth. It went through into the clearing, and it dropped the stick, and it jumped 4 feet in the air and grabbed a hold of this beaver, pulled it down. It ate part of the beaver. It dropped that beaver, it picked up the stick, and it went through on the same trail, shaking its head. That's all on camera. So that tells you how smart. And so if you educate your wolves to snares, lots of times you'll never catch that wolf again in a snare. But there are other ways you can catch him in a snare. And we'll talk about some of that. So that just gives you an idea. And when you're setting, if you have coyotes and wolves in the same area, set all your snares for wolves. Even if you've taken a trapping course for coyotes and that, and our standard course, we recommend a loop size and that for a coyote. But set all your wolf traps for wolves, or your snares for wolves, and you'll be successful in both. We'll talk about that as when we get into the snaring part of it.
Did you like this video? If you did, I think you're gonna like this one right over here. So check it out. And I appreciate your subscribing if you haven't done so already. Remember to do that while you're watching this next video. Click like, it all helps us out for this channel. Catch you next time.